Well, it's time for the first keynote speaker of this conference. He is Professor Karl-Erik Michelsen, well, often called Kalle. He is not an engineer, he's a historian, and worked a lot together with technical topics. He has been in US for 5 years. He has been working for Academy of Finland and also as a professor of history at Helsinki University. But later he has been a professor at Lappeenranta University of Technology, and he had get some awards from Finnish societies around his history of technology and things like that. Also, so he has studied a lot about history and about technology and also economics in the society. So, welcome, Kalle.
Okay, good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you, Hannumat. Very kind introduction. Yes, my name is Karl-Erik, but in Finland it's too difficult, so it's turned Kalle. So let's keep it simple. I'm humbled to be here. It's been a little while before I've been in a conference like this, but it's nice to see so many people together. Of course, the COVID years kind of put us in a different position, but these are really important, interesting moments. So I chose the topic. I was free to choose the topic, so let's see if this works. Can you see the power of technology? And should we start teaching politics in engineering schools? How did I come about this topic? It sort of remind me because it was just about the time when it was 9/11. You all remember 9/11, about a quarter of a century ago. And we happened to have 1 week after 9/11, Society of Historians of Technology organized a conference in San Jose, California. So you might imagine what happened to the seminar or conference organizers when event like this happens just a little while before the conference. So there's a lot of discussion, should we organize, should we come, should we go? But they decided that, okay, whoever is able to come goes. So I made my trip from Finland to San Jose. I had my tickets already booked. So instead of having it like, in just one stop in New York and then to California, it took me 4 days. Going around all the canceled flights and so forth. But what was the interesting thing when we eventually got in San Jose? Only about a little less than half of those who were supposed to come were able to come. So, of course, the whole program had to be reorganized because people were missing. And instead of having the topic we were supposed to have, or the theme we were supposed to have, we chose to discuss the power of technology. Because everyone had seen the power of technology in the hands of the terrorists. Advanced, high-tech technology used against civilian targets. And it was very interesting. We had no papers, we only had like panels and seminars. And the way we were kind of teaching is like, and we came out of this was interesting. How would the engineers figure out this kind of a thing that it will never happen again? Of course, we got no answers. But out of this came really interesting concepts such as critical infrastructures, which is today a very high topic. So all these things, when technology impacts society, whether it's a positive way or negative way, always brings us in this question: what are these technological objects, artifacts, knowledge? Who creates them, and what do they think when they create them, and how do they impact society? So, oh, by the way, so if you have any comments, just yell or stop me. I realized I have 1 hour, so I'm trying to be not too boring so you don't fall asleep. So, anyway, so I guess I take you a little bit back. Langdon Winner, I guess, who has read Langdon Winner? Do artifacts have politics? Oh, quite, not too many. Okay, I just take it to, here is the famous citation, and that's 1977, so 50 years ago. And this, I remember when Winner just published this thing and how revolutionary his ideas were. So that if technology itself, the thing itself, is a political thing, agent and thing, how should we understand this? And when he published this, of course, this was the time of nuclear power hype. 2 years later, Harrisburg and accident, and then later when Chernobyl, kind of took this in this thing. What about how should we understand when modern world is shaped not only by humans, not only by institutions, not only by nation states, but more and more and more about these technological objects? How should we deal with them? So, do they have power? And most definitely we see that they do have power. The rector mentioned, of course, the most recent thing, which is artificial intelligence. And it was very interesting, about a week ago, one of the biggest newspapers in Finland, they organized a kind of a meeting where the elementary school kids were allowed to ask any question from engineers and scientists. And one 7-year-old boy asked about artificial intelligence, that whose intelligence is it? And there are a lot of mumbling and whose intelligence is it? Is it yours, is it mine, or whose intelligence is it? So when we actually hook in the ChatGPT and all of these things, whose intelligence we discuss? And there was, of course, no answer, but just sort of brought me into this thinking that, we are constantly creating all these marvelous technological advances, but about those people who do them, engineers mostly, but today also, what do they think? Or is it always the users who are responsible of using them correctly or incorrectly? So that's kind of course, the issue that we are dealing and discussing in this conference, I hope. Okay, what I'm going to talk about, I was thinking 3 topics. How modern world became technological society. So I ask you to look around. If you look around, what's natural in this place? Other humans, of course, but what else? Air conditioning, light. How many innovations had to be done in order to get even this auditorium together? So why we are so accustomed to be in this modern world. but who are the ones who have built this world and how this technological society operates. What are its values, what are its goals, and where is it going? And are those issues actually addressed to engineering students the first day when they get to the school? With Johanna, my good old colleague, Johanna, we've been trying to do this in LUT University for, Johanna, how many years? Too many. Yeah. So maybe it's about us, we haven't been really successful in this sense. Unfortunately. We've been trying, we have tried all kinds of different things. It was our rector's wish that because we have LUT, it's one of the best engineering schools in Finland. It has the business school, and now it has a school of social sciences, that someone would actually connect the dots. And they made our course, which was the STS, Science, Technology, Society course, compulsory to engineering students. And you can see it was a compulsory. So it was not like, everyone is rushing in. So it was very difficult. So we can see these points that we try to push through in the engineering society, in the engineering mind, is difficult. And I really respect and have a big respect that you all do the work around the world. Okay, and then the second point would be engineering profession. I've been studying engineers, I've been with engineers in a number of different occasions in industries and all of this. And they share some interesting cultural phenomena. One engineer I remember when I was doing some studies is like, why are you social scientists always writing so sad stories about technology? I said, maybe it's up to us, maybe we should, start writing some funny stories. But it was like, their, impression that we are the troublemakers, if, just get rid of us, everything would be fine. So you understand when you try to teach people that, how is this, there's a conflict and tension building. So, but then in overall, at least in Finland, but it's recognized throughout the world, in the society, engineers are called like a silent profession. It is not, it's always everywhere, it's present, but it doesn't really speak out. It doesn't come into society as other professions. And at most, the importance of engineering profession, the public participation, is relatively small. And then, I hope I have time, I'm blurring everything, so I'm trying to figure out and find a way of turning this around, getting passive engineers more politically active. And it's just my own thinking, not only my thinking, but I guess you are better experts than me on that. But nonetheless, okay, so what is a modern world? You all know Anthony Giddens, and so maybe just not repeating what Giddens is saying, modern world is about the change. Everything changes, major transformations. Just when we think that everything is now fine, something new, tremendous big changes take place. Just think about, I'm old enough to remember when the first computers came. In fact, it was kind of funny event. I was back in University of Helsinki, and being replacing history professor, and they needed to have someone to sit in this committee to buy computers to university. I had no knowledge about the computers, but I decided on quite a large budget of how to get computers. So that was the time when we got computers, then came the internet, and now we're in this transformation when the knowledge is not only knowledge, but it's intellectual knowledge. So Francis Bacon used to say knowledge is power, but I don't know who says now intelligence is superpower. So maybe that's another bacon needed for that. So nonetheless, so we characterize major social, economic, technological transformations, and what's important is that they are interlinked. So the big question is, what is driving what? Is it the social change driving technology or technology driving social change? And what about the economic change? And this is an interesting triangle, and it's one of these issues that we would like to teach the engineering students. The drivers of the transformation, because the transformations are really the ones that are causing a number of big issues these days. So the other backwardness is that we are actually getting rid of time and place. So local things are getting replaced by global issues. So suddenly we are able to connect instantly online in a global issues. So this means that we're creating a kind of a standardized lifestyles, which are again driven by technology. You can use iPhone in Finland, you can use iPhone in China, you can use iPhone in any African countries, South Africa, wherever. So it needs a tremendous amount of standardization, rationalization, in order to build these systems that they actually operate. What are the social impacts of those? And then finally, for flows. And this was a big topic 10, 15 years ago. We studied the flows. Flows of people, flows of capital, flows of goods. And this was the time when the borders were kind of disappearing, nation states were giving place for transnational things. But now, going back to the first point, transformation, how quickly we are back in the place when the borders are up, and how technology now shapes this, or how technology reflects on this. Nonetheless, so we have this, at least recent memory, when we have this connection with the similar people, with similar values, goods, and all of these things. So this is the modern world. So what makes it possible, and Jacques Ellul back in 1950s already said that the technology dominates the society. And the amount it actually dominates, it's unclear. It's very difficult to measure, but we all actually see this impacting. I was in this European-wide project, Inventing Europe, and we studied critical infrastructures. That was back in 2010. And it was interesting, one colleague of us from Netherlands studied how the electric grids were actually interconnecting Europe and how it was built. So the nation states played less significant role than those interconnected transmission lines. And when do we see them? We see them when the power goes off. You all heard about what happened in Spain this summer. Suddenly, the whole society stops. It doesn't collapse. The government has the meeting, a catastrophic meeting, what should we do? And how long you can actually stay without electricity. When there had big power shortages and the blackouts in the United States, early 2000, 26,000 people got stuck in elevators alone in New York City. So then you start to understand the power of technology. How do you get people, to get them out of the elevators? Only. I mean, there are, of course, other problems too. So this is the big domination of technology. So constant ideology of engineering is that technology is never stops, it always progress. So it's always like 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. You can check your iPhone and how they upgrade the applications. So it's like the constant process, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people working right now when we're here trying to improve technology. So how do we know what are their goals, what are their values, what is this all for? So we know that from Frederick W. Taylor, that basic idea of technology is efficiency and productivity. So when you ask the engineers, why do you do this? He should or she should say, it's for efficiency and productivity. Are those the values we share? Are those the values that the society shares? Are those values somehow democratically debated and agreed in parliaments or wherever? No, they are the ones, founding stones of every economy. And every economy is placed on a national economy. So the problem is that we actually define technology very narrowly instead of what we should define it. We should define it broadly in order to have social, political, and all these impacts. Because, like Jacques Ellul said, once technology in place, it's very difficult to get rid of it. Even though if you want to get rid of it, it's difficult because it roots itself in our social practices, our human practices, and in a social life. Okay, what are the professions in this modern world? And this is the World Economic Forum last year listed the professions which are the most dominant in the world. So technology comes first. Then healthcare, medicine comes second. Economists are becoming very important. And then finally education. So if you show this to the coming engineering students, they should be very proud. They are the most dominant profession in the world. And then, what are the professions that people respect? Doctors, lawyers, I don't know, this is kind of a... that's not my data, but, let's put it back in States, they used to say lawyers and liars are kind of close, but let's stick on this. But engineers are highly respected, also teachers and scientists. So they are among these most influential people, the ones who take care of us, the doctors, the ones who educate us, and the ones who actually take care of our life on this planet. So how is this modern world functioning? So the professions are highly independent, as we know. They have their professional cultures, they have their professional societies. They have all these standards before you can actually enter the profession. I guess the medical profession is the strictest, so you have to go through the education, you have to go through some practices, and also before you can actually get licensed to be a doctor. But the similar thing you also find in engineering. It's a very closed profession. They have traditions, they have the ways in which education, so they kind of keep the standards, professional standards, very high. Also the values, and those are curious ones. So when you go and look at the values of engineering profession, they always kind of emphasize the good for humankind. Okay, so that's, of course, a noble value, and we should, respect that. But then the difficulty is that how do they negotiate their value to society? What is the way they implement the value to human beings? And it's, of course, technology. It's so much easier for a doctor, for a medical doctor, to just, give a cure and a person cures, and that's it. Simple as this. But what about engineers? How can they interact with society? It's always technology that mediates their values to society. So then the users are helpless because they are not unable to have any influence on how this damn thing should work. For example, iPhones and smartphones, it's difficult to say, okay, I would like to have this kind of an iPhone. How do you know? Because then they say, okay, they come up with millions of technical details, and so it's impossible. And then you just, do with what's coming up. So actually the values of the engineers are translated to society through technology. This is, the highly respected work of Bruno Latour, in which after network he says that we need to start talking with the machines. Because the machines are the ones we talk, not the engineers, but the machines actually are with us, around us here. Okay, so engineering profession is not, because you cannot have a one single technology, but always have technological systems. And the systems, they are interconnected to a number of different ways. So this is why it's almost impossible to get rid of any technology, because then you realize that, okay, these are all interconnected. So if we decide to get rid of, light bulbs, whether they are LED or old-fashioned, what do we replace? It's a part of the electric power system. So we need to understand that the technology is all these objects, but also the systems. And the systems are tremendously big, large, and complex. So engineering profession, even though it tries to figure out how should we participate, how should we engage in political, social, cultural life, practically their only means to do this is by technology. The question is that can we find them some other avenue? Are there any other avenues we can say, okay, you can start to become part of the more active part of the society, some other ways instead of technology? Now they are actually hidden behind technology. Okay, we already did our share, and here it is. Buy this new thing. And that's the tricky problem. And that's what the tricky problem we actually, I think we witness when we're trying to teach them. So they're so engaged in developing technologies that they don't think that are there any other ways, or should there be any other ways to get through. Okay, so to be a modern person, I need to ask this: how is the influence of engineers exercised and understood? So here's the answer from artificial intelligence. I think it's much better than mine, actually. So AI thinks that the profession, because its vast fundamental contribution to daily life, such as infrastructure technology, often go unnoticed. How many of you notice in your daily life what engineers have done? Oh, quite a many. Do you send them emails? So I said, okay, fine, thank you, thank you. No, it's mostly like, this kind of the response we got from our students is that, when it doesn't work. Unfortunately. So this is like, that's why they probably find them very critical. So we seldom praise them that how good this is, but when it's not working. So it's too difficult, it's too complex, and it doesn't fit in our daily life. So Engineers, they focus on functionality and efficiency, preferring the work to speak for itself rather than seeking widespread recognition. And if we had any politician in this room, it's completely opposite. Politicians, of course, they seek, widespread recognition in order to become elected next time. So this is why it's like in this culture of engineers that they don't want to be in the front line. They don't want to be there because they said, okay, technology speaks for us. We don't have to be the ones to speak for me. That leaves them on the sort of the sidelines. And it's a place where the profession has been, and it's a place where profession prefers it to be. So when we have these major transformations with the limited public awareness and media representation are something that seems to happen on the background. So it's kind of a perception of technology that there are these people somewhere hidden in the basements or who knows where. And these things just come. At least this is my impression. I remember when ChatGPT was introduced. I was like 3 years ago. And in the business school, we started to hear rumors that the students were using them for writing assignments and so forth. So we had a professors' meeting, and I said, what should we do with the ChatGPT? And half of them said, what's that? I said, well, it's some kind of thing that, students are using, and when you start to read your assignment, you don't know whether it's a machine that has done it or the student. And guess what was the reaction? Exactly. Half of them said immediately, we need to find all the ways to ban this thing. Well, the other half was kind of skeptical and says, okay, we have tried this, we have seen this before. And every time we try to put some kind of restrictions and penalties and so forth, we always fail. Simply because technology runs ahead of us, so we need to find a ways to work with this. And so far, I heard they haven't found a way. So it's hard because you cannot really influence the people who make and create artificial intelligence. It just keeps coming. And there's a good article about artificial intelligence and how it was actually put in the public. Usually these transformative technologies are tested. They're tested, and there are all these assessments that what are the social assessments. This time they just put it online, it was free to use and go ahead. So we all became guinea pigs in this thing. And you see the mess. And now they are observing, now they are trying to get data, they are trying to get so they can actually start to improve. But this is the interaction with us, with technologies. So the problem is that you cannot get handle on these engineers who are doing this. I would love to have this, half of this are us, and then half of them would be AI engineers. And then we would say, okay, now we know them face to face, who are they? What are you thinking? What is your contribution? What are your values? What are your goals? But how many times you see these AI engineers speaking out? But you always, you ask them, so the AI answers, not the engineer behind the AI. And that's the problem, because we have so much embedded with technology, but the engineers are not facing us. And I'm not blaming engineers, but I'm just kind of saying, because they don't seem to have ways in which they would somehow discuss openly with the society. So engineers and politics, I think this is like a Shakespeare's Hamlet's dilemma. To be or not to be. Also, my experience of teaching engineers is that they say, like, what happens to me if I step into politics? So it's like Hamlet. What should I be? Do I have any means and do I have any ways of handling political discourse? And when I studied Finnish engineers, they had their internal discussions. And what came out of this was like, they said, well, if you can avoid one thing in your life, avoid politics. So they kind of, professionally they try to stay out. So now we try to get them in. So what is the invitation and how should we actually get in this? So there have been a lot of studies, you probably know better than me, what are the political ideologies of engineers? I would say in general, they are conservative, leaning more in a political right than political left. Of course, historically we have this interesting, during the Soviet time we had red engineers. I guess in China, I don't know what color, but there's like the whole bunch of them. So ideology and engineering are kind of a difficult issue, but in a sense, at least in the West, conservative social values, which is interesting. Should there be progressive social values? Because they are the ones who are running the progress. So they are the ones who initiate the transformation. And still they think kind of a conservative ways. So there's another, I think, interesting conflict. So the second one is kind of definition of technology. It's still amazingly natural free. It's kind of something that doesn't have it's only technology. So you don't really find anything else except it's just a machine and it works. So whatever technology does, it's the user who actually determines the political act. It's not the engineer who determines the political act. And that's been very interesting. When I was discussing with nuclear power engineers, and this became a tremendously interesting point. We always say, okay, nuclear power is fully political. There's nothing else than the politics of nuclear power. Where do you get the uranium? How do you get the safety? How do you produce this and this and this? And they said, no. We just produce electricity. It's like a boiling water, but we're using a different source. Okay, yes. All right. So it's kind of the end of the discussion, if the other party is on this. But they are kind of staying out of this. So we need to kind of, in order to reality, emphasize education. So I think what actually comes out of this whole thing is about they are educated, there are strong cultures within engineering education curriculums, engineering schools. And we try to look LUT engineering curriculum, and almost everything was in a positive way. So technology was actually viewed when it was educated to students. It's a very positive thing. So there's like very little critical thinking about what the rector said, you need to educate them critical thinking about what this might be. So it's kind of this positive way. And then on top of this is, of course, the great search for innovation. And innovation, everyone here must agree that innovation is a positive thing. But innovation is the one that actually drives all this major transformation. So how do we reform engineering education so we get the kind of a broader political and cultural issues included, not kind of stamped them on top of the curriculum, but actually embedding them into the whole thing. And then there is the ghost of technocracy. And that's an interesting thing that comes around when you're discussing about the political entry of engineering profession in a political life. So they said, well, of course, if we get involved and how we should run the political system. They run it engineering way. It's an interesting, in Finland 2016 we had new prime minister, Juha Sipilä. He's an engineer and he came from outside of the politics and he was like elected to be the prime minister. And then there's a negotiation about how the government should be put together. And traditionally, it's been like painful, slow. All the parties who are becoming, the members of the government, they want this, this, and this. So it takes forever. But Sipilä, because he was an engineer, he had like, okay, we had these processes, and we go through this, this, and this, and here's the end. And the whole thing just lasted like a week, and that's it. And it was like an engineering way of solving problems, framing. You don't, spend endless times of discussing ideological issues. You just do, there's a pragmatic way you do this, this, and this. And when we see these moments of crisis in society, when society has lost its kind of a political balance and they have to apply technocratic governments, they are tremendously efficient. I studied Finland in the post-war 1945, 1952, when we had to pay war reparations to Soviet Union and, of course, the tremendous demolition of war in 5 years. So they established this technocratic unit, and lo and behold, everything was fine. The thing was that they immediately when the reparations were taken care of, they said, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with the government. So they stepped out. But it was an experiment of how to run also political life through engineering values. But this is the technocratic fear in the society that engineers will eventually, take over society. And I don't know, how many of you would fear this kind of a moment? Okay, I love your positive attitude. I'm a little skeptical on that. I like to have more diverse discussion and all of this. But it's like, like two opposite. If they come into politics, then they would have their own way. And then we have the normal way of doing politics, especially democratic ways, and very difficult to put them together. So they're like incompatible in this sense. Okay. So what should we do in this thing? I think here are a couple of points. First, I think we should start with engineers. I think we all who are coming outside agree that what is technology? Even the definition seems to be blurred. In engineering education, they're so concentrated in building and constructing and designing that they don't really see whatever they do, that it's kind of a social action. So the other definition that still haunts us is technological determinism. It is something that, technology eventually, it always will progress. So there's no way of stopping technological advancements. And it's interesting now, I've been involved with a lot of technological museums, and they put in place. If you go technological museums, they have like, here's the first radio, here's the second, third, and then. So when anyone goes to the museums, okay, wow, this was the first one, so kind of ancient way of having a radio, and now we have this fantastic. So it builds in our mind the idea that we are advancing all the time. So there's like no U-turn in technology. Think about if Apple, Tim Cook comes and says, okay, we don't make any more advanced iPhones. We go back to the first model. What would happen to Apple share? It's no longer there. So there's like this tremendous momentum pushing it in this direction. So it leads to this technological determinism, and the society kind of helplessly look around and say, okay, there's nothing we can do. If I don't do it, someone else is doing, and there's always someone else. So this leads to this kind of a way of, very difficult way of critically seeing how technology and society influences together. What is engineering today? From masculine profession to more diverse profession. So I think that would be it. I'm still hoping to see what is the impact of women in engineering, how this will change. I think that's one big possibility. Also, having engineers coming from countries that don't share Western values. We see that the Big South, most of the young population is now located in Africa, South America, and Asian countries. Do they have the same engineering values? I hope not. I hope they would come up with the different types of values. And then engaging them, somehow encourage them to understanding and being a stakeholder, not the main player, but the stakeholder. So co-creation of technology, I think, would be the word. So it's not only engineers, but the users and other stakeholders. So together we create technology. And this needs also dialogue and discussion between different social groups. And then finally coming out of the box. Maybe some Bill Gates type of guys come up and says, okay, no more this old engineering, now new engineering. Some kind of ones that we can actually, look at. The modern world works with these great stars from any profession who are vocal and who has something to say. So everything starts from education. I think when we looked, it's overloaded by scientific and technological issues. And I hope artificial intelligence might help in this. So taking some of the stuff out from engineering education, giving it to the artificial intelligence and leaving room for broader thinking. So engineering syndrome should be somehow erased. So syndrome that, everything, works, and what doesn't work is something was in mistake. So having kind of failures and technologies that haven't created the outcome we would like to see are also part of our society. So we see technology like in any other social issue that it has pluses and it has minuses. And I think that would be an interesting point. And then I found Tom van Wansil's, I think it was very great, his systems approach to engineering schools. He's from University of Eindhoven. And he kind of, putting it short, what he does is that bachelor level engineering studies should be mainly the substance, mathematics, physics, and whatever you need for engineering. But once you move up to the master level, then the whole thing is changed and the systems approach will be applied. So then if the engineers are enforced to understand technology and place it within existing and coming systems, they need to start thinking differently. So they need to think that, okay, what are the different stakeholders? What are the different, how do I discuss, how do I interpret this, how this should be sold to public? And you need to kind of learn all these skills, other type of language than scientific and technological language. I think it was a fantastic way. I don't know if that ever comes true. I've been a strong advocate of systems thinking for a long time because it actually enforces us to come out of the box and understand how the systems work, how the inner links, how the feedbacks, how the loops come back and forth. So if we would have the whole generations of new engineers educated to understand systems, at least I would think they are more prepared to have an open dialogue, discussion with society. It also opens the systems for stakeholders to come up and discuss without having all these tensions relationships which now seems to exist. I don't know when is this going to happen, but that's out of my keynote speech. Okay. Okay, thank you for your attention.
Now we have some 15 minutes for questions and discussion. So, well, speak up if you have anything to, well, ask or add to this presentation. Just there.
Hi, I'm from the UK. I worked in industry first, now doing my PhD. I'm quite interested in the idea of being politically active within engineering, but I think maybe it's not an industry thing, but there's an idea if you are vocal, especially for example if you are a woman, you'll talk about gender-related issues in the workplace in engineering. If you're...
Thank you. So yeah, the idea that maybe if you're a woman, you're pushed more into talking about gender-related issues in terms of being allowed into the room. If you're a young person, you shoulder the idea of sustainability and environmental impact. But often you feel your voice is very small within an engineering society. So how do you see the idea that if you want to become politically active, that you don't have to stick in the box of talking about gender diversity or being the young person talking about greenwashing?
Okay, that's a good question. My pedagogical style is that I always ask, what would you do?
I did the whole gender diversity networks. I led them, and I felt very frustrated because it was everyone at a young kind of graduate level, and then it was very senior and nobody in between. And there's the idea then that you have to educate or change the masses because that's where real change happens. And you'd be brought into rooms to be the person to talk about environmental sustainability, but you don't hold the budget, you don't hold the power. And you can keep talking, but it's very tiring. So I guess it maybe supports your question of engineering the masses, teaching the masses maybe.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I realize what you're talking about, and it's very easy to get in a conflict with engineers. I mean, you can just have a little bit like a language like this, having this ideologically tarnished words like gender and sustainability and all of these things. So what's interesting is that how do we actually break the wall that they don't become defensive? I mean, the reaction is defensive. It's not really they like to ignore it, but they're defensive that they think, okay, you criticize our technology because of this and this and this. And I think that should be like one of these goals of education, that having more open type of debate instead of massive number of exams where you look, can you do physics and mathematics? So having some room of teaching them how to engage in normal public debates and discussions where you have different genders, people coming from different backgrounds, they have good questions. But it's this kind of elitist mentality of engineers that, okay, I know technology, and you can say whatever, but you still need to use my phone at the end of the day.
So, yeah. Thank you for your very interesting keynote. I think one of the ways, as an engineer myself, and a woman, one of the ways to engage engineers, especially when it comes from the side of the philosophers and the ethicists, is to maybe not talk about us as you engineers must. I mean, if I tell any of my colleagues, you must be nicer to our female students, I mean, I've been married for 24 years. If I tell that to my husband, the whole thing goes to block, and you can go to hell and nothing's going to happen. It doesn't work like that. So I think it's about inviting them or inviting us as engineers onto the stage. How can we work with you to help you get there? The moment we start making it partisan, like I had to facilitate an ethics class where the first thing the ethicist says, you engineers always ruin the world. There were 25 students who shut down on the spot and said ethics is a horrible course. They don't like us. Rather than, hi, let me show you how ethicists can help making the world with your engineering solutions a better place. That is an inclusive way. And I think that's the big part. If you want engineers to be included, you have to include them in a language that isn't telling them that they're wrong. It's a language that says, we love what you do. How can we be part of making it better and doing it well? And I think that is, in an increasingly world that is becoming increasingly volatile in 1-0 discussions, because you cannot be in the middle anymore, I think that is exactly where we need to move back to the debate, the discourse that goes on about how we can make things better together. But maybe that's because I'm a really big fan of transferable skills. But I hope that this would be, we can go there. I think that's for me, as an engineer, where I'd like the solution to be, to work together. So also, social scientists should do systems thinking, because it's also part of what we all have to do. It's a collective responsibility.
Thank you, it's very good. I think it comes back to the power of technology. It's very difficult because the engineers don't actually recognize, or they recognize, but they don't speak out about the power of technology. And then in the situations like this, it becomes evident who has the power. And when you actually deal with the power, then you have this kind of a discussion which leads you nowhere, in a sense. But what I have found is there's one segment, and even it's actually quickly growing, that when we now have technologies that actually go inside of a human body. It used to be this kind of a absolute shield between technology and human body is a skin. But now we have all these things that measure your heartbeat and measure your this and this and this. So in fact, technology is now becoming part of our, human habitat. And this is how I think it's a one optional, because then engineers are losing this power what they had this outside. So when they come inside, they must deal with the new types of issues which are so intimate and so human. So there is a chance of building a platform of this in a more collaborative way, I think.
Okay. Just one hand up.
And here too. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the excellent keynote. I was thinking about this open-mindedness and how do you want to bring engineers out of the box. And that got me thinking that aren't we the ones that actually put the engineers in the box? We put them in the disciplinary silos. We put them only to work in the classroom and not in the society. We restrict that they don't talk to social sciences or healthcare or other disciplines. And then this got me thinking that what are your experiences or recommendations in terms of curriculum level? How should we think differently in order to get the engineers out of the box?
I hate to go back to you, but no. I don't have any good experience. It seems to be sort of, it's like interlocks. Like you said, when the students come in, they are part of the engineering curriculum, and then they start to do this, and they're sort of like losers if they, come out and start studying philosophy or sociology. So there are these cultural things, how to get, and then we have, of course, tried to get sociology and philosophy into engineering curriculum, and then it doesn't really work. Then we have STS, which is in between. And it works, but it doesn't work that well as it should. So I would go back to language. So the language that you need to speak is different when you speak with your engineering colleagues, and then the language you speak with the others. And if we can somehow teach them both, so they are able to answer your question. I'm not an engineer, so you see. So they're able to kind of engage in dialogue, and without going defensive and says, okay, you are wrong and all of these things. It's difficult.
Be that nasty engineer saying that time is up, and I hope you can talk with Kalle later on. I would say that I was thinking, how come we can fit everything in the curriculum? And I think that was a very good idea to put these things on master level when the students already know something about technology. Because if you first tell power of technology, they don't know what they are talking about. So that was a great idea. Thank you for that. And as I want to give you a little present. This is a songbook in Finnish. It is named Bunny Hawk in English, in the Rapids of Engineering Student Song. So now you are officially in the Rapids of Engineering. Thank you. And now it's time for sick bitches. Okay. Perhaps Mikko can say it better.
Hello, everyone. It's now time for the SIG bitches. So I think we can all kind of like conclude from this that there's still much to do with the engineering stuff. So can I start my part by asking the other SIG chairs and co-chairs to join me on this stage? Come here. There are like wonderful stairs for you everywhere. Okay, yeah. I need to fill the air with some noises when you walk here. So I don't know. I think the main thing about SEFI 6 is that the work between our conferences is mostly done within the SIGs. And like you were told, there are 13 of us. And every kind of topic within engineering, education, research and such are covered. So, are we ready here? So, your task is just when your video comes up, come forward, smile and wave to our wonderful audience. And the task for our audience is when you see the video and you see the waving people and you see a topic that interests you, go talk to these people. Okay. Now I've been told that I can just... Do I need to enter slideshow? Okay. Okay, so if you are anything like me, you don't like to read long texts, but the SIG definitions... Oh, don't start it yet. Ei pistä. Käydä. Noin. Tuleeko äänet vissiin kanssa?
Joo, pitäisi tulla.
Okay. This went exactly like we practiced. So the SEFI pages have the SIG descriptions, the tasks and interest and whatever. 6 is better than SIG. But if you're anything like me, you don't like to read long texts, but you like to watch at nice videos. So every SIG has prepared a video for you. And now we will see a collection of those videos if everything goes correctly. That's jazz, baby. Come forward.
Hi, with Hannah and Sophie, let's dive into our activities.
We are exploring the development of a framework for attractiveness. Look for the paper presentation to learn more.
In a literature review, we investigate the effectiveness of outreach activities.
Next, we investigate learning standards in secondary education via a Delphi study.
We expand the comparative study of educational pathways leading into engineering. Join the SIG workshop to include your country or discuss engineering core concepts.
We value dissemination and strengthening partnerships with academia, industry and students.
Join one of our activities or get in touch.
My name is Madeline Palmier, and together with Jennifer Griffiths, I am a co-chair of the Capacity Building SIG. Our group is a community of researchers and practitioners who are broadly interested in pedagogical development in engineering higher education. Our group has a number of activities related to research, dissemination, and community building. If you're interested in learning more, we welcome you at our meeting and workshop at the conference.
Hi, I am Aniko Kama.
And I'm Chris Smith, and we are the co-chairs of the SIG in Continuing Engineering Education and Lifelong Learning.
We are celebrating the SIG 45th anniversary at this conference. Join us at the SIG workshop that will explore what we can learn from healthcare and from Singapore in the terms of lifelong learning.
And there's so many great papers too.
Come and see us during the conference, at the workshop, in the SIG meeting, or reach out.
Curriculum development is the systematic process that defines what will be taught, who will be taught, and how they will be taught. It involves the plan and purposeful process of developing the complete package of educational experience that makes up a degree. The Curriculum Development SIG supports colleagues who are looking to lead change in the curriculum and who are willing to embrace new curriculum models. I look forward to seeing you at the SIG meeting this afternoon at 3:45.
Do you love teaching and learning enhanced by digital tools? Of course you do. Everyone does. Come live your love, join the Digital Learning SIG. We have great ideas and delightful discussions and would love to hear your views. You are cordially invited to the DLSIG meeting today and the DLSIG workshop on Wednesday. Yours truly, the non-robot humans of the Digital Learning SIG.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Chika Nweke from UCL, and together with my colleagues Dr. Fiona Truscott from UCL and Dr. Jolynn De Lima from EPFL, we are the co-chairs of the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion SIG for SEFI. We are passionate about promoting research in the area as well as promoting good practice in the area amongst other things. So if you are in alignment and are curious to learn more, we look forward to welcoming you to our SIG.
Hi, I'm Lynn, and together with Neil, I co-chair the Engineering Skills SIG. We're a very active community that meets monthly, and last year we collaborated on a position paper, and this year we're working on our SEFI handbook focusing on transferable skills and competencies. Whether you're curious about our progress or eager to contribute, we'd love to have you join us. Let's shape the future of engineering skills together.
Hello, we are the Ethics Special Interest Group, a community of teachers, researchers and friends collaborating on a wide and wild range of engineering ethics topics. Please join us this afternoon for the Ethics SIG meeting and tomorrow afternoon for our SIG's workshop. Please do join our projects, join the community, join the Ethics SIG. Thank you.
Dear my teachers and researchers, welcome. I'm Yulinda Rasteiro, chair of the SEFI Mathematics Special Interest Group focused on enhancing math education for engineering students. This year, our group will showcase innovative methods of teaching and learning mathematics in engineering. I invite you to join our MSIG meeting today and participate in the interactive workshop tomorrow. Let's rethink mathematics in engineering together. Don't hesitate to ask me any question you might have.
Dear participants, my name is Arjan Lok and I'm the chair of the Special Interest Group Physics. We are a group of 40 lecturers from different countries who teach physics to engineering students. Every other year we organize a conference in which we exchange ideas on how to teach physics. Today we will be happy to meet you in the afternoon session for information on the group and our activities. We are curious to learn from your experiences.
Scan the QR code, join us at the workshop on independence of accreditation agencies. Our SIG is dedicated to strengthen the international accreditation of engineering programs, boost institutional global reputation, elevate curriculum standards, and advance career growth through skills registry. Let's shape the engineering education landscape together and join us in IPR Awards ceremony later on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andre. Above me is Aida. We are both the co-chairs of the Sustainability SIG, and with us are 20 to 30 people, quite active, quite engaged, and we hope that you will join us with your ideas. Aida, what are we going to do here at the conference?
We'll have a workshop led by you and 2 other colleagues from the SIG, and we have the general meeting. In the general meeting, we will show and have testimonies of the activities, and also you have the opportunity to share your ideas and lead something to engage more. This is us.
Okay, that's it. Now you know everything about the SIGs, and that's the end of the SIG pitches. Thank you, and come join the work of the SIGs.